All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week, another interview, another discussion. Thank you very much, Brother Ben, for being here.
And I'd like to also welcome our guest here. We got Amneris Montanari from Rimini in Italy, or nearby Rimini, Italy area, from the Adriatic coast of Italy.
Yeah, so, in front of Croatia. I am in front of Croatia.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
So today's topic is continuing with general knowledge about narcissism. As I say, disclaimer, I'm not an expert. I just have taken an interest in it, like a lot of people, like thousands of people. I don't claim to be a psychologist, psychiatrist, or qualified or anything. It's just generally exchanging observations between friends. That's really just a disclaimer.
I've done psychoanalysis about narcissism.
Right. Okay, Faye.
What was really interesting, Brother Ben, is that last week it really resonated with a lot of people, and a lot of people seem to have come back to say they've had some kind of connection with a narcissist, whether it's being in a relationship directly or having a parent or experiencing a friend who's in a relationship and they're trying to help their friend. So it seems like it's that kind of like interconnectivity. There's a narcissist somewhere in everybody's life somehow.
Should be. The frequencies are around, they say that the frequency, I've heard that the frequency is 1 person in 1,000. That's quite a high frequency. Yeah. So someone's going to have had the impact of them or have met them. So it's, you know, through work or family or school or, you know, that one in 1,000, you're going to have crossed paths somewhere.
Yeah, that's quite high, isn't it? That's very high.
And it's not a thing, you know, there are shades and degrees of it with other things as well. And everyone has a certain amount of narcissism. And then they can have healthy narcissism, and then gradually, you know, the traits can become stronger and they can become more also across towards psychopathy and or also this Machiavellian, where it's more deceiving, more lying, more tricky and more manipulative. So it's not a black and white thing, but someone who's very entrenched in their habits as a core mode of behavior for a long period of time, observed by many people. So then you can clearly say this is more what we're referring to.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just a phase, it's not just a mood, you know, it's a core, it's a main way of behaving for a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, something that really came up was like, you know, trying to understand the signs or seeing the signs that you're in a relationship with a narcissist in one form or another. And something that came was almost like there's this codependency of one person being super empathic. So they're like full on empathy. They're naturally wanting to help. They're naturally wanting to give. Whereas the other side seems to be the taker, the extreme taker, the severe receiver. And the two seem to kind of like connect together because one's offering so much and the other one's receiving. So it just seems to be this natural connection. But what happens is kind of it's very deteriorating.
Well, there's something in here that for a start, it helps to understand this. Firstly, narcissists do not have, they haven't developed a good self core one. So they've got false selves, false masks, false behaviors that just help them get what they need.
Yeah.
Codependent people who are often attracted to them also have codependent. There's something called a dependent personality. A dependent personality looks to the world to say who they are. The narcissist looks to the world to tell them how to feel. So the two of these two personalities knit together well. Both of them know there's something weird about their self. They know that they're going to have to do something different to survive. So narcissists make this decision and learn this early on to make lots of strategies to do with a constantly changing way of acting to get what they want, the attention, the achievement, the look of achievement, fulfill their fantasies of success and being higher. But the codependent people, yeah, you're talking about empathic people. Empathic people often have very fuzzy boundaries. They feel other people's feelings. They're over absorbing, and again, not much of a sense of self in there. They're so much flooded by other people's selves and their will and their decisions and their thoughts and their feelings. There's not much of a kind of platform basis for them to have a core difference. So in a healthy relationship, you have two individuals. In the relationship, as you call it, you know, as it's called, the dance between the dependent or codependent and the narcissist. So there's two people with no real sense of self going on there. So, but then certain dynamics start to automatically occur. So one is often that the empath side will have this mission in life of caring for and healing and trying to dominate and win the power play. And that just goes on and on and on. And the narcissist has the effect that they have on people around them. But yeah, so your first question was a little bit, how do you know if you're in a relationship with a narcissist?
Yeah.
There's the direct intimate partner, primary person. There's that side. Anyone who's very close to a narcissist becomes confused by their language. There's a lot of inside out speech. So confusion is one symptom that just people like, you know, they're feeling very strange about the relationship, and that can lead to defensiveness or counter reactions. But because they know they're being used, they feel they're being controlled or treated unfairly. And there's also a complete lack of equality. That's by definition, a narcissist considers them to be higher, more special, more unique. And so the function of the people around them is to support this idea. And anyone in the orbit of them who stays there is going to be forced or manipulated or, you know, to try to make that image and message, the message that's going around.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
There is a lot of confusion, and when you don't know who you are anymore, and you don't find you feel that something is confused, and you think, oh, where I am, who I am, because they exploit you. Because you have no boundary, and you are very confused. This is the symptom.
Yes, that's definitely one of the ones. Is a sense of confusion. Also, the moving. There's something where they call it walking on eggshells. This phrase has been used quite a lot. Is you're kind of creeping around, you know, wondering if you're doing the right thing. This is something also with people who stay around and sort of fit in. So also, if you've had narcissistic parents in upbringing, you're familiar with this normal pattern, which is to be very careful and very, very afraid of upsetting them and trying to do the right thing. And
you are always wrong.
Copy. Excuse me?
They make you always wrong. Everything you do, you do it always wrong.
Yeah,
I had
they'll
a
blame
schizophrenic mother. Everything is always wrong. And you start to see, or you are always in fear.
Yeah, and doubting your own.
You want relationship because you are dependent. You want relationship very, very, very strongly. And they give you this to you.
Exchange.
And you start to be,
That's right. So one of the things is a feeling of doubting your own perceptions, because often that is what is one of the messages that they are constantly sending out, is there something a bit wrong with you? Something a bit wrong with you? Something a bit wrong with you?
Yeah.
Is the, well, hypercriticalness,
Yeah.
hyper competitiveness, this
Yeah.
kind of competing sense, and also your power goes down, your energy levels go down and down as well. So there's many messages that they're giving out, that you're to blame, that you are defective, that you are a failure. Those messages go out. So coming along with that is often depression and fear, and also the fear side, depending on if the narcissist goes towards psychopathic. So the fear can also just be of that they are frightening, and you should be frightened if you're going near someone who's, you know, they are out to dominate and control.
In fact, some of the points that came up from people that listened to last week was that there were things like they really resonated and they can relate to many of the things that you were saying, and they were saying, gosh, how do I take action, how to say no to a narcissist, and how to develop their own sense of self-worth, and how to and that was it. It was the sudden shock and realization that they weren't growing when they were in the presence in this relationship of a narcissist, and how to give themselves permission to leave. It's like challenging this massive mountain of fear when they're feeling so low and so fearful and such a lack of self-worth. The actual you know, how to give themselves permission to leave, because they feel so kind of like they have this lead on them, you know, that they can't actually leave. They're stuck in this situation, and that was the big thing. It was just almost like being in a prison in a relationship. They felt trapped in this relationship, and yet they could feel instinctively that it was not allowing them to grow. It was deteriorating their health, their mental health, their emotional health, and then their physical health, because eventually they started to have either like a burnout or sudden feelings of depression, or these kind of anger spurts that were coming out, these emotional triggers that were happening. And then that would resonate into the family, and then they would feel bad again against themselves, because they would reflect on their own behaviors and say, I've just reacted really badly, I'm a really bad person. But then they're kind of under this trigger reaction from the behavior of the narcissist that forces them into this way of lack of self-worth, and then kind of like stressed, emotionally stressed, you know, way of being, and then they let it out into the wrong people. And
well, can I just say that so this question now, how do I get permission? So that's already coming from a dependent. It's like, please give me. So it's already it's already coming from the dependent place. And that I think there's, you know, it's not going to happen that when you are staying there, you're going to get the answers to those questions and suddenly feel like you can now go. You know, that what you have to do is there's two techniques that they say. One is no contact, is you just go, you just fly, and you don't sort of half do it. So I'll go a little bit, and then I'll come back and get the rest, and I'll go a little bit more, and I'll get the rest, and then I'll ask them if it's okay and see if things have changed and all that. No, you go 100% away, and you stay 100% away, and after a long time of being away, then you work on your self-worth and all those things. You don't do the two things kind of together, because that won't work. It's like having no oxygen in the room and then kind of breathing a bit in order to get out. You can't, because there's no oxygen in there. So you have to go somewhere and get your breath back. And then once you're breathing normally, and then you'll see about the oxygen supply, but you can't do it when you're in there. So firstly, is this big jump. You know, it's a complete release. You know, it's some things are done best gradually, but some things are done that. And the other is the kind of rage that you're going to get, because it's going to be totally unacceptable that you're doing that. And the other thing is the gaslighting, you know, that's going to happen at the same time, is that, you know, and the attacks on you will increase. So that's the best, you know, reason to just do 100% out. And then there's this technique called grey rock, which is that you do not communicate with them, that you don't take an interest in what they're saying by treating them as if they are a grey rock. It's like, as soon as you know, if they will say, but that's pathetic, that's just like your typical you. If you go, what did you say? I'm not typically like, you know, you're in. You've been hooked already. So the way that they'll play on your insecurities, manipulate your fears, you know,
that makes a lot
and
of sense.
make it first, then they will drive you down so you're less capable of doing that jump away. So that's, you know, and you have to have your deck cleared so that you are also prepared that this is not going to be a simple and easy thing, because typically a person like that will have got many of your things. So if you think, you know, a piano is worth going back for and arguing about, a piano is not worth that much as like half of your personality or something. No, you're better off just, you have to be prepared to give up a lot of things, physical things, because that type of personality is very interested in getting shiny things, you know, and big material things. They're not interested in you and your feelings. They're interested in their appearance to the world as successful and, you know, those kind of things. So yeah, the no contact, which is 100%, you know, and for 2 years you don't have any contact at all. You let them suffocate and change and look for someone else to feed off of. And then after your 2 years, wait another year maybe, and then if you want to, send a Christmas 10-second call. That's it. That's called no contact. It's not, I'm writing a letter to explain my feelings. And it's not like, hi, it's Daddy Day, it's Father's Day, I want to, you know, none of these things will make sense in this situation. So many people have confirmed it. I can confirm that it's a valid experience for survival's sake. And it doesn't seem to have a bad effect on that other situation. You staying there does. It has a bad effect on everyone. It gets you destroyed, and it feeds and empowers the vortex to get stronger there, the unhealthy dynamics. Just by staying there, you're feeding it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's totally true. And very important, we have to change. Dependent people as me, when we are the people that we have to change. Okay, they are not necessary. Okay, when you start to meet them, you understand that you lost yourself, you never had, and you have to change. Don't stay with them. It means I don't stay with my part that need this kind of things. I start slowly to leave my dependent needed, okay? My masochist needed, okay? Because if you took the diary and you write down every day what they took and what you give, they always took a 3 double as they give you, okay? Because these people, they need to always need it. And you don't change them. You have just to understand why you need them. And the only way is to leave them alone and start to build the self that you don't know yet, because you never had. In some cases, stay with a different person, you start to grow slowly, start to live alone, and start to be more confident. And it's very important. If you think in which way I can stay with them, you haven't understood the problem, your problem at all.
So that's what I agree with that. I think a lot of it, getting a lot of fresh information in it is really good. You know, things like this, forums, a lot of YouTube. There's no harm in that at all. Is to watch those people, the experts or people who have devoted their life to counseling people on narcissistic wounds, like Dr. Sam Vaknin. I listen to him a lot. I think he's very good information. He's experienced. The other one is Dr. Todd Grande. These two are consistently a good reference for me. I found their information accurate and valid and researched. You know, they're not just, so those are more information. Otherwise, the information you're getting in your ear is coming from those people. The narcissist is giving you information about you, your life, your reality. That's what they really want. You know, a narcissist, they kind of create holographic audiences around themselves, you know, and then they get you to fit in with that movie.
Yeah, for sure. That's so true. And in fact,
So you just need to get away. There's no being in that movie and working it out. It's not work outable. And they get every day they need that supply that keeps saying, I'm in control. I'm in control. I'm creating everything. I'm superior. I'm powerful. And so no matter what you give them in terms of energy, attention, ideas, or whatever, it's never enough. Like you say, next day they'll just need it all over again, or if not more.
Or something totally different. They ask you something, the day after they want the opposite. They make you confused always.
Yeah, very confused.
The confusion factor is strong, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and
often,
I think
often the language is confusing. They will say they will talk about themselves while they're looking at you. It's very confusing. I'm trying to think of a good example. There was a time when there was a narcissistic father talking to a narcissistic son, and the narcissistic father said, I was my father's favorite. Something like that. It's like, you know, is he talking about himself, or is they talking about you? And it's a kind of compliment. So those are kind of inside out language that they'll use. Is they're really talking about their fake self, but they make it sound as if they're talking about you. So, you know, you realize that this is what that everyone around them is actually a mirror for them to try to get, you know, points about how good they are. So if you had if the person comes in and they've had a success, all the narcissists are interested, how can I get points from this? You know, so they also want to steal the credit of things that you've done. So if you've learned the violin or you know, to the maximum point, they just want to get the credit for that because they gave birth to you. So that's their accomplishment. They're the one who's brilliant at violin because you're theirs and you created them. So somehow they did it. They steal all the credit and don't give you validation. Invalidation is what they give.
Yeah, absolutely.
They steal the credit and don't allow you to be.
It's very, very important. You have to start write your life, put everything right, okay? And everything, diary, you have to write what happened, what they say.
Diary.
You can match that. It doesn't work anymore. So if you start to write, you have a lot of power. Because you start to put everything, okay, this goes there, okay, this is a lie, this is a lie. And it's true, you change totally your life because you can't meet these people anymore. But when you write, they can't say, no, it's not like this. You have the letter, it's like this, it's for you.
Yeah, go recording.
Slowly, writing, I'm writing for 7 years. I write my life three times. Just now it's very short, but you put everything in the right position, and you when you have a problem, you've written down what happened last year. It takes time, but you can put your life in the right perspective. Is okay. English, I don't know. Sorry for my English. It's not good.
Great.
No, right. Yeah, right perspective. That's right.
I apologize.
Especially if you're with a narcissist, they will change memories to make you feel that your version is the wrong one, theirs is the right one. So somehow you're defective. That's the main aim there, is not to clarify what actually happened on that holiday memory or something, but is to get that idea across. You're defective, they're perfect. They've got the right one, you're somehow wrong, weird, defective.
That's very true. That's a really powerful thing, and it's very shocking how good they are. I mean, I've been in a relationship with a narcissist who was violent with me, and even discussing it with him years afterwards, it was my fault. The fact that they were violent with me was my fault. It was me that was faulty, and therefore,
that's very,
but it wasn't
victim blaming.
directly in that way. It wasn't like he didn't say it was your fault, but it's the way he kind of manipulated emotionally or psychologically, emotionally manipulated the way, the controlled way I should be thinking. It was like turning around how I feel to make myself feel bad about myself, and that I'm at fault, and that I should be actually apologizing to them. And that was another thing. Like, I remember just having this network, my family and friends, and I remember, Brother Ben, when you and I discussed a few things, and you came and you sent me some links, you know, we were discussing on Messenger, and they hugely helped. And I think for me, like the wake up moment, like my family and friends were kind of holding signposts up, you know, they were giving me a list of 10 things. These are 10 signs you're in a relationship with a narcissist. And I'll be like, yeah, and I could see that I could resonate with it, but I didn't want to accept it. And I was maybe scared to accept it, or I couldn't see a way out. But that whole transition of when I finally woke up to the reality and then managed to get out, the shock of actually suddenly standing on the other side of the wall and then looking back, because when you're away, when you're at distance, you can then see more clarity in a situation that you've been through. And it took me ages to kind of reground myself, because I was in such shock and angry with myself to a point of staying for so long and putting up with it for so long. But then I've learned so much by these kind of hooks. It's almost like lots of fish hooks, and you can't undo the hook because it's gone in at this kind of horrid angle, and you can't, and it hurts, but you start to feel comfortable with what you know, because it becomes a habitual way that your life is. So the fear of actually not having that almost becomes strangely scary as well. You know,
I think there's something also in what you're saying, where if you've grown in a house, grown up as an infant through your primary formation, developmental years, you know, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and there's been the influence of narcissistic behavior close by somewhere, sibling, uncle, father, mother, you know, teacher, wherever if it's been very strong, you know, around, that's what you're comfortable around in a way, or at least you're familiar, even if it feels bad, you have that as familiar. So when you sort of orbit around, and then boom, you find yourself around someone as an adult, and it can be an employer, it can be a partner, you know, in business, but you're kind of on familiar ground. So your old survival patterns from childhood, when you can't escape, may get replaying. So anyone else would go, what? Why are you carrying on working at that hotel? The CEO, he's using you terribly. Like, you know, like, what's going on? But for you, it's okay, because you know this ground. You know, it's comfortable. But you're not getting out. You know, it's kind of worth it. And it can go on and on and on. So your old dysfunctional logic, which allowed you to survive, gets replayed. But what you're not able to see is, you know, the real problem. You probably convince yourself that you can, or that you can survive in there and thrive in there, wrongly. You know, that it's not worth it, that those dreams that you've been sold are not going to really come true. You know, the day is not going to come, you know, when and you can't really accept the destruction that's happening. You can't really accept. Please, Amneris.
I think we have always to start from yourself. What I need here, we need seduction. These kind of people, they are very, very good in seduzione. They are very appealing. They say you are wonderful, you are great, is people, they are very attractive, they are very manipulative. We need this kind of people because we need love, we need to be powerful, to be, I don't know, and we want this kind of people. Seduction is terrible. It's what we want. Otherwise, we could say, oh, who is this? Oh, he's, you know, but we need it. Is the problem? It comes from family because we need to be someone, or and they start like this. When you go out, they say when they treat you badly, okay, and you start to feel afraid. They start to say, oh, you are beautiful, you are great, I need you, etc., etc. What happens is we are kind of people, I think, we are from the family, we live with fear. We are we have a pattern. We live with fear, and we choose people that they give us fear. Sorry.
No, that's great. That's great.
No, true. What I want to say is that what you're describing, there's actually a name for it in narcissistic sort of dictionary, and that's love bombing, which is the initial stage. Well, there's a kind of tracking where narcissists will track, they'll scan across people, and they're looking for someone who's isolated or who they can get into isolation. And then they will realize that this person is a target. They're vulnerable, they're available, there's not too many people around them who are going to be able to protect and warn them. Yeah. So you're vulnerable. And then one of their first tactics is love bombing. So I'll give you an example. So there's a cycle, which is the love bombing phase, kind of honeymoon phase. And then after you're in, because of the honey trap, this part, then they'll rapidly start to go through a devaluing cycle where they'll start to work on your sense of self-worth and pull it down. And once you're low, and then you realize by then, this isn't going smoothly and I'm alone. This is because that first tracking part, they want to see that you are vulnerable. So it's also a same, that in this part, they follow almost the same tactics that a pedophile uses in grooming. They're scanning for the kids who are loners or don't have those parents around, who are looking in, extended family checking in. They find this one and they're kind of a loner and they're vulnerable. And it's the same with the way that a narcissist is looking for someone who's going to be able to destroy them enough, keep them enough, feed off them enough.
Yeah.
All right. So first, the love bombing is the first bit of it, to make them feel they're fantastic, they're wonderful, they're like you say, all those compliments, the love, the everything, and then they'll devalue them, start to low down. You're not worth anything. That town you come from, no good ever came out of that town. It just sort of, it's not as good as where I came from, this kind of thing. And then demeaning as well, really, really like harsh speech, and then destroying. So the person is destroyed, and that their nervous system is not really able to function at that point. The oxygen of their needs for care and their needs for that point. Also, the narcissist will try to make them dependent. It's because then once someone's dependent on you, you've got them under control. So whatever they are, whether they're adults now we're talking, or orphans, or whatever it is, but once they've got them under their control, so then they can threaten to destroy them through that control channel. But that's almost recognizable. I was invited to America by a narcissistic person who offered me $1 million place, a green card, citizenship for life, completely taken care of. And then I started to get all the red warning signs. And around that time, when everything was actually pretty going smoothly, I said to my cousin there, I said, I'm highly suspicious that this is a narcissistic person. If I'm correct, I'll be giving you a call in about 5 days. They will be trying to sort of devalue and destroy me. They'll go into that phase. Sure enough, right on cue. you know, they would be driving in a car, they would stop the car in the fast lane, turn to me and just start hammering me with, you know, like disgust, you know, you know, I managed to record it. I had an audio recorder, but I was by that time aware of what's maybe happening with this pattern, you know, because it's not something you're really going to be aware of until you're too late, unless you've got more education and more information in, you're going to be, it's going to be kind of too late. I worked for narcissistic employers in the Middle East one time, a family who the head of the family was narcissistic, and same kind of thing, too late. By the time you sort of realize it's way too late, very difficult to get out of. You know, they got your passport, they've got you in a kind of agreement, you know, it's very difficult to get out. Amneris, yeah, please.
As a woman, I don't know, okay, it's not always the same things. Never get your money out. I mean, these people, they seek for something very material, okay? And you need always to be independent and work very strongly. And don't believe, I mean, it depends if you are very honest with yourself. Slowly, you don't meet these people anymore. If you work very hardly.
Yeah. I think one of the difficult things in what you keep referring to there, Amneris, is this problem with
in life. No expensive, no luxury, no. If you start to live a nice, simply, and you like normal people, and you like normal food, everything, these people, because if they can't get something from you, they never touch you. They are not interested in normal people. They are not. We have to change totally our thinking, our way of looking life, and just live a simple life and independent economy. You have to be always very, very independent. You never depend from this kind of people. They kill you in every way.
Yeah, I think that is also very difficult for a certain personality type. For example, I knew of a 40-year-old woman who was half Italian, by the way, coincidentally, in England, who still lived with her mother, and mother was in the kind of next room, and her mother would always be coming with milk from the coast, and she'd never really moved out. So, and there's a certain category of people that's the case, is often the mother or a parent has crippled their strength to become independent. That's, you know, this can be part of family systems, is one of the parents or the siblings can contribute into making someone really weak. You know, I've seen it being very common here in Asia, where they have very big families. They're very big families, and the sort of the group talk, you know, the group idea about families is that you have lots of children so that you're going to have people to look after you when you're older. They don't even question that. And then often as the older ones go, so it's the younger ones who just get given this job of care assistant. So this is something that's changed in the West, but you know, that can still also play into this, is that someone in there will be told you're not going to be independent because you're not going anywhere, and that's in order to stay with the parent, to be their care assistant. So there's that. There's also borderline is another thing, where borderline condition, for those who don't really know about it, borderline is a very different, they have great difficulty in leaving the mother, or certainly leaving the mother. They're not really fully formed comfortably emotionally. They're still sort of somewhat entangled. So they have a great fear of abandonment by anyone. So if anyone looks like they will leave them, even a little bit, you know, in a kind of normal way, like take care, I'll be off, then explosive anger starts to happen. And the way that this hurts them is often shown through self-harm, to make the person realize this is what you're making me feel like. So that again, there's a bad or a poorly formed sense of self, if any sense of self. There could just be, you know, most people will work off of this idea that no, there's a self in there. There's this self thing, there's a self, you know, and everything kind of comes back to that. Well, if there's nothing like that going on, just a kind of flux, there are some conditions of personality, unhealthy personality, that you can say that of. So narcissist is one of them. They're sitting there, but it's a complete mask, and they're just thinking, what can I act like to make this situation work so that I get admiration? But behind it, there's nothing there. And the same with the borderline person. They haven't formed this thing. They just have these
I am a little bit borderline.
Emotions.
I am
Right?
little bit borderline.
It's very common. And also in this dialogue about narcissism, borderline is one of the things that we're going to have to, you know, learn about, because it's very common. I know a very narcissistic parent, male parent, and I was recently talking, and I never knew their kids, but I asked the mum, did the children, how did they come out? Because it's kind of psychopathic, narcissistic, with all the signs, setting fire to a house, fighting, you know, reckless behavior, cocaine, endless boredom. Those are very psychopathic kind of traits, violence, antisocial behavior. But I never knew how their kids turned out. Apparently the daughter is got this kind of borderline condition. So I could even ask, you know, anything on the cutting on the arms? Yeah, even without, you know, that. So there's a genetic component clearly, but there's also the way that a parent of this spectrum, psychopathic, narcissistic, is basically absent. So a baby has needs. They want a hug. The narcissist doesn't. It's not going to do that, and the psychopathic won't be there. They'll just be here, there, and everywhere on their excitement, trying to get those thrills. And the narcissist will be off trying to get narcissistic supply generally. These are big generalizations, but you can see how that, you know, that affects the children. The children have emotional starvation. They're not getting the needs met. So they learn to manipulate to get their needs met. This is often a case with the thing called people pleaser syndrome, where there's a narcissistic parent and all the child learns is to act. You know, how do I act to please them so that I get what I need? So, you know, if I have to dance on stage, I dance on stage if I'm going to get what I, you know, get fed or get a bed or get a roof or get an education. Need me to be a pony riding star? You know, they're terrified what happens when they don't. Amneris,
I had schizophrenic mother, and is a kind of way that you have because they hurt you a lot because they are very sick, and you start to please them because you are afraid to be hurt always, and you always please people because it's very, very painful. Don't please them. You don't know what could happen. And to be honest about me, you start when you do you make a work about yourself, you start to understand that you are broken, and you don't know anymore if you can start to be safe or where. You just to say, okay, it's like this, is my life. I do what I can, and I give myself. I am broken. I will until I die. Is what I am, and start to accept that you are broken and you are in pain.
I think, could I chip in here?
Yeah.
Okay. Only yesterday, the day before yesterday, 2 days, I was watching a very good talk by Dr. Sam Vaknin, and it concerned this, there's something called internal family systems therapy, IFS. And that's a quite interesting modality. But he was talking about how this IFS, it depends on completely their theory that you have a self. There it is, and it's very, very clear. It's a solid thing, and that from there everything gets kind of organized and sorted out. So as I was saying, like the problem is when you try to apply a therapy like that to people who don't have a self. And that's, you know, it's not like you can just make one. Otherwise, you're doing more or less what a narcissistic suffering person does, which is to create false selves. But he gives a very good description in that about some systems that if we understand them, which is not easy to do. This is not an overnight thing. But he talks about sub-personalities, which is one thing, which are sort of personalities that survive for a while to help. You know, when you're in college, you create, or when you're doing a job, you know, you learn a load of tasks and skills that work for it. It might be a language skill, or it might be a technical skill, or it might be a cookery skill or something. But you learn how to do that. And that sub-personality, you know, works for a while. And then he was contrasting that with self-states of mind. And so self-states is kind of a different thing. And all of this is different to a core self, which a healthy person, they're just confident, they have it. They were given love and everything as a child, and they were given all their emotional needs met. But it's the people of children of alcoholics, you know, children of gambling addicts, and children of, you know, parents in prison, or went through foster homes, or narcissistic parents, or schizophrenic parents are absent. They're not there. They can't function properly to empathy for children's needs and all those sort of things. But his way of explaining this, I don't think that's clearly enough understood. And I'd like to say a third thing, and that is this: when you enter into the Buddhist sphere, a Vipassana center, typically you're going to hear a confusing idea. That is no self, Anatta. So, and the way that, you know, these new models that are getting more clear, we really need to be clear about that, I think, before we can understand and use properly this Buddhist model. Because I know for me, where there's, you know, I have a schizophrenic auntie where I've grown up with a narcissistic father, possibly a codependent mother or something, a narcissistic sibling. And this, it's very confusing when you go in to meditate. And also when you listen to other people giving their descriptions of what happens in their meditation, you realize it's nothing like what's going on in yours set up. Or even when you're going into outside the house to parties, when you're 17, 18, and you're starting seeing people presenting personalities and social confidence, is this whole field is very confusing. And I noticed I would attract psychopathic friends. I had a psychopathic best friend. I was meeting narcissistic friends. I was meeting also, when I went out into the work world, pretty much my portfolio of skills was advertising, hey, where's the narcissist? You know, come and tell me what to do. Just tell me how to jump, how high to jump, and I'll jump. You know, like I was a perfect advert for, where's the narcissist? You know, it's like all the people who go on to America's
We could be rich if they pay. We could be rich.
It's like, just destroy me on stage. Great, you know, like you're the man. But this is a very important point, is that Buddhists are teaching non-self. So for someone who's got a strong sense of self and confidence and everything, so that's fairly straightforward. You know, is they will get it. Oh, right, yeah. Because many therapies like Freudian and Jung, they will teach about self or ego and soul, spirit or mind, and then they have a clear model in mind. But it's only now where they're starting to recognize that some of these systems do not have a self involved, like a psychopath does not have a self going in there. If you ever try talking to a reptile, you know, you get a gecko on the wall, and you start going, hey there, little guy, you all right? You feeling? And they go, and like, you go, whoa, you know, you realize that thing does not react like me. It doesn't have what I've got going inside. Or a dog, you like, hello, little chap, what's your name? And then like, whoa, he's not a little chap. He doesn't have a nice little cuddly personality in there. He's just got a attack thing. Well, it's a little bit like that with some of these things we're talking about. But to understand the way that a borderline doesn't have, then you will understand, otherwise you can deal with a borderline for quite a while, and then they hang themselves and you go, huh? But I thought the cuddly her, she was nice, and I thought we were getting along well, you and me, but you may not have been really properly tracking and understanding and getting the knowledge and the information on. And many people are in denial. They like to invent a story about how they hope it is. They're not really getting realistic if someone has, is presenting with confusion or depressions or personality confusion or esteem problems, and they are reluctant to go and get the expert advice and information that's needed.
I have a good story. It's short. Okay, there is a woman, she has a boa. No, boa, is a serpente. Boa is, okay.
Snake, yeah.
And she goes to the doctor and said, doctor, my boa doesn't eat anymore, but he is very, very kind with me, always close to me. And the doctor said, okay, fine, he's going to eat you. I mean, sometimes narcissists like this, they don't eat for a long time, no, as a boa. They are very close to you, they are very kind, but they are going to eat you. No, you don't, my English is not good.
No, I understood it perfectly. No, in fact, one of the people, actually, I didn't refer to
snake. Boa is a snake, a big snake. No,
I didn't refer to them, but I referred to a narcissistic person early on. They had a brother who was psychopathic. You could tell that from their eyes. Even people who don't know about psychology would say to me, there's something wrong there,
Wow. Yeah.
He's got this look, like hypnotic look. And it was only when I start to go, what's this YouTube about the psychopathic stare? And he's like, ooh. But that person had a python snake. And it was only like, when they would come in, I would be waiting for them in their house, in their sitting room, friends say, they're coming back soon. And they would come in with a live mouse and then just throw it against the wall. Bang, kill it to feed the python. And then they would take their coat off and they have a python wrapped all around. So, and you see this sort of stare, and you realize they're kind of weighing you up, they're weighing you up much. And I think they can learn a lot from those animals, is because they realize there's something with themselves that's missing and different and dangerous, and they want to understand it as well. In a way, they don't care that much. They're a bit quite simple.
Yeah, actually, that was another question that came up quite often. Was parents who had children from a relationship that with the narcissist, basically, and one of the main questions that kept coming up was they were concerned that their child would eventually subconsciously look for a narcissist in their future relationship. And one of the questions was, how could they help their child break the pattern, break that kind of
I only think that there's this education that we've been doing. I mean, I think now 5 years I've been watching YouTubes on this subject. I can't think of any better way, which is learning, because otherwise, it's so predictable. When I look back at prior to it, I really had any insight about this, none. And I'm talking about starting learning when I was 48. So after that, I had no idea. I'd be having grandiose delusions and thinking of, creating triple albums and Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals and stuff, and not really linking this with narcissism. But then, when I met people and had long relationships with people, now I look back at that, man, how did I spot that? That's a grade A, relationship of a narcissist with another narcissist, and no surprise, you know, like how it worked out. But it could go along. But it's two people who are just unaware of the phenomena, just don't know it. So if you don't know it, you have to get the knowledge. It just doesn't kind of happen. You know, and it's not like the parent could just kind of do something like give them a hug every night and read them a story or something. It's really clear information, you know, and it's those lists help so that you can recognize, you know, if there's this tick, this tick, this tick, it equals that. You know, that's what it is. So, you know, and anyone who tries to sort of go around that, I said that can be very difficult. That, you know, there are reasons. There's the reasons I didn't get into it until I was 48. You know, that's because you're so busy doing the things that those people do who are asleep to it. Like writing triple albums, or you know, I didn't actually write a triple album, but you know what I mean. Is like people are chasing narcissistic dreams. They're chasing narcissistic people. They're running around after narcissistic people. You know, they're trying to do a lot of things. They're still trying to please mummy and daddy, you know, and go back with the big trophy, which won't ever work. You know, there are 1,000 things, and that keep you in a zombie state. You know, that make you not aware of it. Please.
Amusement. I found in my life I have to avoid any expectation, amusement. I mean, just keep things easy. I am simple. I am not the best of the world. And when people start to say, you are just don't like when too many fancy, just keep distance from. But it's nothing. Sorry, it's because it's my birthday. People, they are calling me and I am with you by phone, sorry. And we have to keep a lot of space from our desire, okay? Between us and the other people, us and our desire. We have just to learn to stay alone, love ourselves, keep things easy, and keep people far from us, from emotionally. Not, we can stay with people, we can like people, but we don't need people. I mean, we need good people. We do not need the sex. We don't need just always touch. We don't need always to have something, to be something. Just I learned to be easy. Keep a few things.
Yeah, I think if there's been a time period when there was narcissistic exposure, and now you're in a no contact, you're away from it. So,
no, it's not. I am by lawyer with one.
Is to make them like really actually cognitively understand what is the meaning of unconditional love, because during the time of narcissistic exposure, they've been exposed to heavy jealousy and possessiveness and conditional love. So to make sure that they understand the difference between the two, and that one is toxic and not normal, and not to be encouraged, and how the other one, because they will have learned a kind of strange normal under the other one. So that's, you know, so I just think that, you know, people naturally expect recognition, and they expect that's normal to get it, you know, not to get criticized and endlessly when they do things. So that's a part of the training. But also just to, you know, they're heroes, to check their heroes and who they are admiring, and what's their kind of, you know, is to give, you know, if they have a pop star that's clearly narcissistic, is to show them there will be other people, you know, writing about them saying, you know, this person's very narcissistic. They will be hearing this side, this person's wow, you know, whoever it is to show them the flip side of that. Is say not everybody believes that person is wonderful, You know, and that you can get that in religious organizations where they're being lied to, they're being manipulated, they're being sold a story. But then someone from the outside who is independent, objective, can say, look, here's a clear list of all the lies and manipulations that are being put. And that may start to tip the balance about it. But, you know, usually their PR is very good. And, you know, they're pretty adept at, you know, portraying people as fake news, or just stunning people also with techniques of, well, associating with clever people, but also, you know, using wow factor. So, you know, there was this, the murder of Gianni Versace. Did I mention this?
Yeah.
On Netflix. It's the assassination of Gianni Versace, the clothing designer. But the person who ended up murdering him and 5 or 6 other people is a classic case of a malignant narcissist. That's someone where psychopathy mixes together with narcissism, where he's constantly lying. He's constantly telling people complete lies and stories about who he is, his name, where he's from, his parents, his background, what he does, what he's working on. Everything's just lies and lies and lies and lies, because it's just, as I was saying, like, there's nothing in there. There's no real person back there. He doesn't really have that. So he has nothing to lose by being a series of walk on, walk off parts. He doesn't really belong to a real self that knows there's this masks and hats and lying going on. There's actually nothing to lose in there going on. So, you know, there's that kind of emptiness part of it is a big part of it. But recognizing the signs, when somebody starts lying, straight away, you know, you should recognize that. So some of these signs, if you have children and they've had narcissistic exposure, is to get them really aware of typical things to watch out for and to check for. You know, that's some of the ways that you can protect them against going for someone. Yeah, Amneris, I interrupted you.
Craving. We have to be careful with our craving. Everybody craves in some way, okay? When you are close to this kind of people, in some way you are craving something. And we have to keep space from us and our craving, okay? What I want from him, what I want from her, why I want this. I just keep distance from wanting. In our tradition is just keep wanting, keep distance, coming back on the body. Because we have to change ourselves. It's the only way that we have to for going out from this kind of pattern with narcissistic or this. You understand, brother? Yeah, what I would.
Yeah, I could add if I could add to that. I don't want to hijack the conversation. It sounds like a thing. No, is if you're craving approval.
Yeah, I mean approval. This kind. Yeah. It's what I
know, because craving can have a lot of objects. You know, chocolate.
Yes. Yeah,
wine, you know, but these,
okay.
the self-esteem, the things that tend to make up self-esteem. This is where children who have had a narcissistic parent tend to repeat that pattern until they recognize it. But when you say we have to work on a self, it's just too general. But if you can say, I have to work on this behavior, you can change your behavior.
Okay.
It's very difficult to sort of talk about a self.
Yeah, it's true. About our behavior. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, it's true. Better.
Specifically.
Because you can work about action mentally and what you think and what you do is behavior.
Once you've identified someone as narcissistic, you'll already be feeling nervous because it reminds you of that home situation which you wanted to get out of. So you're back close. But there's this tendency to take things to them and go, is that okay? Is that enough? Can I do some more? And they will eat that up and they will spot it. If they are narcissistic, like you say, your craving to satisfy them is what they want. And it's what they will feed like an alligator. They'll just, and you will also never satisfy them. you'll find 3 weeks later, you're now, whatever it was you were doing to say, is this good enough? Now you're doing it 30 times as much. And they're getting really nasty about how bad it is. So that's a very common pattern. Is the kind of dependent person is dependent for their self-esteem on external validation, external approval, and typically from a narcissist, so it's even worse. It's a kind of a cycle there. So instead of getting it from inside, and that's where you can break it. You can stop the craving by going, as soon as you catch yourself, I'll just go and take this and ask if they think it's good enough. You go, whoa, damn them, I don't give a S about their approval. Stuff them. Let them sit down there and forget about it. No. And I'll stop doing it anyway. It doesn't need doing. Usually it's this, it's that kind of thing. And we get caught, the wounded ones get caught in perfectionism. Internally, not satisfying themselves. It's never good enough. And often it's because they're taking that thing, that task, or whatever it is, that skill or that effort or that object or that, whatever it is, to narcissists to say, what do you think? Am I good enough yet? Could I possibly come up to your level? Did I make it? That's never going to happen. So, but that can be stopped when you recognize it with mindfulness and go, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't have to bow to the chief monk another 90 times. He's never going to get enough of the bows. or the statue. Or the statue. The statue, can you forgive me for not bowing enough to you, our statue? You can work on those behaviors.
What I'm working now, that is very painful, is why I want to be good for other people. There is one reason. I want see my problem, what I have to do really in my life. It's better miss yourself in someone else. It's just escape from life, okay? And when I start to see, okay, what I have to do in my life, what I have to solve in my life, okay, I start to open my ferite. In English is when you have a cut. I start to open,
injury.
Or the injury, okay, and have a lot of fear because I can sort out my life only if I open, and I start to work and stay with narcissists was a way for don't think about myself and about my injury. When I start to see, okay, not them, but me, I mean, what my life is, okay, do everything right. I start to keep that attention, not about people around me, but about what I have to do, what I want to do, my motivation in life. And a lot of pain came from this. The problem is work about what we are is painful. Everybody wants escape.
The science of this wound and the effects around the wound are really explained by that Dr. Sam Vaknin. He explains very well about what happens when the mind forces won't accept looking at the wound and the pain involved.
You call wound?
Wound, W-O-U-N-D. It's like when you have a cut from a knife.
Wound. Okay.
Wound. Injury is another one.
Yeah.
So, and Freud talked about this, the narcissistic injury, and that comes in very young, infant level. When there is rejection, when there is the knowledge that you are not all powerful, that you are not the center of the universe, then this kind of wound starts to form. And then growing up, there are defenses against feeling that wound, which never really goes. But our ability to accept and know about it is, so a narcissist doesn't have that insight. They remain blocked at that level. And some of the other ones, like borderline, when the wounds defenses start really reacting, they get hijacked by very destructive forces to the point of wanting self-destruction, even to the point of suicide, like that. So that's really worth understanding the science about this wound and the defenses which where the mind cannot look at it. They cannot look at the truth of the actual dynamics. If there was really, you know, a faulty family system, and they cannot accept that because they're too stuck on the story, the fantasy story, which, you know, maybe the narcissist has spread, that we're actually the most successful family. You know, the truth about it may be different, for example. So looking into it, you know, supposing one of the Trump outfit, you know, said, I want to find out what's really going on here, and so on, you know, that would be quite difficult for them to personally do, having heard all of the internal stories, you know, for example. But in any family where there's really something going on, but, you know, and where it starts, you can't say it all started with him or her. Often this is multi-generational. And then we also, if Buddhism, you're bringing in karma. This is even more complicated. Somebody who was horrible in authority in their past life, was cruel, was dominant, was greedy. So it makes sense that that will be a narcissistic child, or born to unpleasant and unfortunate parents. It makes sense to me. But most of Western therapy starts with a blank tape, and therefore they get this license to blame parents and society. In Buddhism, you don't. As I say, someone, you know, and even now, you know, that some of the primary teachers, they will say, what causes egoism? Even if you're healthy, so you're a balanced person, but you get put in a position of power, authority, a CEO, and you've got many resources. And so, hey, I've got 10 trucks, three cranes, I've got 17 ships. Wait, I'm a big cheese, you know, I'm a big guy now. Is the ego can increase because they accepted the role, and then they believe all about it, and then they can treat people terribly, maybe, you know, and that is increasing the narcissism or the egoism in that person, the arrogance, you know. And maybe if they're born taller than other people, handsome proportions, or if they develop a technical skill that is, everyone's going, wow, did you do that with marble? Wow, you're brilliant. But it goes to their ego. So maybe by the time they die, just a minute. So maybe they started off as just a villager, but they came to be Pope or something. By the time they die, they think they're God. You know, they think they're like or emperor or something. Maybe they started off as just as any old kid on the block. But by the time they die, their ego is way out there. You know, they've been on television. They were bossing thousands of people around. So that karma, because they took it, they ate it, they swallowed it, they believed it, they made it, you know, go to their head, whatever you want to say. When they will get born, this is sleeping, it's latent, or it presents straight away. Some babies is almost straight away horrible or psychopathic. You know, you might also get babies and straight young, you know, from a very young age. Like, if you've seen that movie, we have to talk about Kevin, or let's talk about Kevin. No. It's about a mum whose child starts really behaving terribly, and he's a psychopathic child, and it's just like two, you know, regular parents. Okay, I'm going to read you a story, you know, but, you know, and I think it's based more or less on a true story, and you see how these things happen, where it's not just okay to blame the parents as well. So these wounds you're talking about, they can also come from karma. This is where Buddhism has something quite revolutionary and different to add to the story. Because if you're always going to say every baby's a blank slate, it's all the fault of the parents, we're missing something there. Amneris, you put your hand up.
When I start to stay going to London monastery Buddhist, I start to live with people. They are they were very, very, very good people, and I start to understand that I needed to stay with good people, and I
Right.
needed to change my behavior. Okay.
Yeah.
And there is a thing in Dhammapada where I say, don't stay with fools.
That's Mangala Sutta.
Mangala Sutta. Always have in my mind. I have the Sutta of the fire. Everything is on fire, monks. Just that is always in my mind. Just be in a hurry because I can die tomorrow, and I am not okay. As the second is, don't live with fools. Don't stay with fools. And what happened? I had to change my behavior totally. And it took a lot of times. 10 years, 20 years. I'm still in. We want to have intention, a motivation very strongly.
Absolutely.
We need to say, okay, I want to be a good person. I want to be a right person. I want to live with Sangha. I want to live with good people. I want to be different, okay? And slowly, slowly, your life change. But we have to be very careful because those people, they react. I mean, it takes time, and we have to. You can't live your life straight away. Your children, your family straight away. Something happened when you change. Everything around you is changing, and everything can happen. They won't kill you in some way. It's quite dangerous. It's quite dangerous because people they say you're crazy. What are you saying? Why you change? Why you're like this?
That's often why people go crazy.
Kill you.
Is because that's often why they go crazy, because that's the message. You know, if you leave, you're dead. So you know, but while you're there, crippled, they can eat you and feed off you. So that's. But yeah, no. When I was in Myanmar, Burma, about 7 years ago, there was a psychopathic guy who ordained. He became a monk, and I'd sort of got talking with him, and my ears started to crop up. Because I wanted to have some repeat things. I was saying, so that last conversation where you were talking about killing all of the gays and all of the Muslims and everything, you mentioned you quite like guns. Is that right? He goes, oh, yes. And then he was talking for 20 minutes about how he loves all these different types of guns. And he's got a Uzi buried in his back garden.
Oh, my God.
He was from Alsace.
I don't want to be a nun anymore.
No, oh, don't be naive. Don't die of naivety, first of all. Wherever there are human beings, you will find this phenomena, which is why it's no good to just say, I'm running away over there, you know, to those lovely people. It doesn't work like that. But no, he was from Alsace, the area of France. And I noticed that my initial, before I sort of like, realized what was going on, was my initial thing with his energy and his charisma and his sort of charm and his energy, this kind of like acting a bit like a spy or something, was like, hey, you know, we buddy up. So I was kind of like, hey, yeah, you and me buddy, you know, kind of like the odd couple or something, quite charming. and then one guy got killed. Oof. And I was like, just a minute. Killed. Someone died, and then this guy was walking around with a machete, and then he'd been telling me how he had a girlfriend, but her laptop went out the window. Physically, he wouldn't tolerate anyone using a laptop in his presence, so he threw it out the window. And about that time was when I realized that my laptop was in his room.
I don't go to monastery anymore. I don't want to be a nun anymore.
I'm telling you, you should not die of naivety about life, you know, because even in the time of the Buddha, the Buddha's cousin, Devadatta, was a psychopathic person. He tried to kill the Buddha on many occasions. I think 9 occasions or something. He physically tried to have him murdered. And there are other people in there. There was a serial killer who the Buddha retrained and made him into a monk, who then became kind of a saint, you know. So when they set up that kind of story, you got to be careful. There was one guy who was British who came to not Chom Tong, but its sister temple, And he came in the afternoon with his wife, and his wife said, my husband would like to come meditate. Sure, well, come on in. I said, but I'm not actually here anymore. I'm actually off to Europe. But I used to be here for a long time. And to be honest, you don't have to come here and do a retreat. Why don't you go and have a holiday down in the south? In fact, one of my devotees just gave me a wad of money. I really am not trying to touch money. Have the money. And I gave him it. And in between then, at about 9 o'clock at night, he got the idea in his head that I was giving him that money to get rid of him so I could get off with his wife. So about 9 o'clock at night, I was meditating at the stupa, and I heard this motorbike arrive off up the end of the temple, and this voice shouting, "Where is he? Where is he?" Calling, and he was calling my name. And I thought, oh, there's been a problem. I better go and help sort it out. And he was going, "Where is he? Where is he?" And then there was the sound of breaking glass. That's the first sign that maybe something's a little bit amiss. And then he was saying, "Where is he? Because I want to kill him." Oh. So in the complete darkness of a temple with a few little lights, I could see him. He couldn't see me because it's all dark. He had a hammer, and it's 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, so what do I do? Do I go up there to where the light is and introduce myself? Yeah, no.
You were a monk?
No, it was after I'd been a monk for 3 years, and I'd left and traveled, and I'd come back again just to say hi, and I'm off to Europe. So it just happened to be in this little window of 2-3 days that I was there. So it's very difficult to know what to do, because once he disappeared out of the light of the lamp, where's he gone? And I know he doesn't know where I am in the dark, but now he might be behind me with a hammer. So it's very frightening. So do you run that way? And he might be running back the other way. All very scary. And it's all right to read the Buddhist stories where he just, would send out loving kindness and the mad elephant.
Yeah, but it doesn't work sometimes.
No, but back to what you were saying was when I was exposed to that French psychopath, with the Uzi in his back garden and the machete and everything. My question was really, what should I do? Should I go and confront? Should I, what
you did?
So I went off to another temple. Anyway, I wanted to find somewhere to go. You have to, it's easy to say, just go, but where? So I cleared with them that I had a place to stay. And then I started researching also, on psychopaths. And that's when they were named, narcissistic psychopath and malignant narcissist and all that came up. And I was like, yes, this is him. And then I asked monks, I said, what's your advice? And they said what you said from the Mangala Sutta, the blessings Sutta, do not associate with fools. Stay away from fools. Don't. So becoming this is they say asevana chabalana. But when you also got this thing, I'm going to become a therapist. You got to realize that it's like someone saying, I want to be a policeman. Policemen are associating with criminals all day long. It's like you think I'm going to become a force for good, so I'm going to go and work in prisons. Well, you're going to suddenly be 100% spending your time with very toxic people. It's a bit of a paradox. Yeah. And similarly, temples, people think they are full of enlightened people.
Yeah. No.
That's like thinking that a hospital should be full of 100% healthy people. Otherwise, it doesn't work. You can go into a hospital and go, hey, all these people are sick. It can't be working. So it's the same with temples. You're going to find a lot of people who are greedy and angry and egoistical. That means they're still working on it. So that's even more confirming what you said. Learn to live alone and learn not to depend, because there's nothing to say that your chief person at a temple isn't narcissistic and is just doing all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna have to slowly, we've got a massive storm coming here, so I'm just gonna get the girls in and get the fire on, because it's cold, not like where you are, Brother Ben.
It's true. There won't be any fires here except for if they've got psychopaths tying them up. Yeah. Well, stay warm. Yeah. I send you my warm air. So there you go. Did you get that?
Thank you, Faye.
And you can have some as well.
Ciao.
Amazing. Learned a lot. I learned personally a lot from that. And there was a lot of food for thought, certainly for my situation. And I certainly know that that will be the case for many others that listen.
Again, disclaimer: I'm no expert at all. I'm just a human, you know. Really am. And
but already
that's it.
discussing it, like, and getting points of view and airing ideas and experiences, that's hugely helpful.
Thank you, Amneris, as well. Thank you.
Yeah,
my is experience, just experience. No, I've done with a very good psychoanalyst for 3 years and a gruppo psicoanalitico. That is very, very, very tough, because I've done with a woman that she became a man, with another woman that she had a daughter without arm.
It just happened in the process one day that like just.
I mean, it was very tough, but very helpful.
Do you want to share? Whoa! That's a magician. He's got a magic person.
Thank you so much.
I've been in a group and someone turned into a frog. Oh, right, hey. He turned into a frog.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you both. And we'll be connecting on Messenger with pleasure. Thank you. Have a wonderful
Hey, have you noticed when you try to do a dramatic leave here, you have to press the button twice. You go, right, I'm going to leave. Bye. And you go click and you go, oh, no. You have to